It appears that there is more and more fire and smoke enveloping the very top of the building, and as fire crews are descending on this area, it does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
You did. That was out of
yes, and that's
view.
The second explosion. You could see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center that is underway in downtown New York.
On September 11, 2001, 19 al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 planes mid-flight. 2 planes were flown into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. Another plane destroyed part of the Pentagon. The 4th plane crashed in a field in Pennsylvania, and people believed it was headed towards the White House or the Capitol building. About 3,000 people were killed on 9/11. While the attacks, of course, greatly impacted those on site that morning, it caused a lasting state of panic and terror throughout the city, surrounding areas, and whole nation. Considering your experience in the 1993 bombing, did you have any fear working in such close proximity to the World Trade Center?
1993 was very different than 2001. I was only 30 years old at the time, 1993, and it seemed more like an inconsequential event because although 6 people died, there wasn't a lot of serious damage done it just, things resumed normally very, very quickly after that. I think because I was so young at the time and the buildings seemed invincible, I never really worried about them coming down. It never seemed like something that could ever happen.
At the time, was there anything that really stood out to you about that morning that you remember now?
I just remember, I remember very clearly thinking, gosh, what a nice day it is. And it was always a beehive of activity down there because 50,000 people worked in those towers. So even though it was early in the morning, and it was still just a very active, very normal, but very, very, very beautiful day.
Did you directly witness either of the planes crash into the towers?
I was in my office, and we heard this, explosion. So everybody's first thought was that a small plane may have hit because nobody really knew. We heard this explosion, and you looked up, and kind of the sky was just sort of filled with papers and kind of all kinds of debris. Even though it was only about 17 minutes between the first plane hitting the first tower and the second plane hitting the second tower, but that 17 minutes today anyway feels like it was hours because we were all just sort of aghast at what happened and didn't really know how to comprehend it. 10 minutes into it, the most disturbing thing of the day happened, and that was when we saw people starting to jump from the building. So we were looking at the building, and somebody in our office screamed because they saw a body come down, and so that was by far and away the most sort of disturbing thing of the day. And then more started jumping. So we were all at that point told actually to stay in the building because there was all kinds of debris coming down from the North Tower. So I was back in my office trying to make some phone calls, and I guess it was about, it must have been just before 9 o'clock. The second plane hit the South Tower just after 9, and there were a couple of people in my office, and we were actually looking at the North Tower. And the one thing that I remember very, very clearly, and to this day it still bothers me when I hear it, is the roar of the second plane coming in because it came in so low. We heard the first one before, but it all happened so quickly that it didn't register. but now we were sort of focused on the buildings and what was happening, and we heard the second one come in, and because we were looking out, we actually saw the blast come out. Basically, it came out the east side of the south tower, and it was at that point that everybody just decided to get out of the building.
How chaotic was the city as you attempted to go home?
At the base of the building was extremely chaotic because people were literally running from the building. And what was also happening was that the rumors, it's amazing how rumors started. Once we got out and the police were trying to push everybody uptown, and it was happening naturally anyway. People were sort of working their way away from the towers. And then somebody said there's another plane coming in. And it created this sort of mass panic. And this wave of people just started running uptown. And it wasn't true, it was just a rumor. And at that point, everybody was pretty terrified about just anything further happening. As you moved uptown, it was like moving into kind of different worlds because downtown was completely chaotic. People were trying to just get away, as far away from the towers as they could, and everybody was walking everywhere, and it was just millions of people, it felt like, trying to get away from it. And then you get to Midtown, and it was kind of a calmer, less chaotic. But then you got uptown, and it was surreally quiet, right? It was really, people were just stunned. They were just stunned. The saddest part of the day, I was walking by a school, and it was very clear that a girl had just learned that her father probably had died. And because all of her friends were trying to console her, and she was, obviously very upset. So that was when it started to hit that it was a pretty serious thing. I mean, watching people jump obviously was not good, but seeing that was upsetting because Sarah was 5 at the time. So.
In the weeks after, people were coping with the deaths of relatives and friends while still trying to comprehend what had actually happened on September 11th. How did the mood change over the next few months in comparison to the weeks after?
There was definitely a sense of tension in the air. I work with people all across the country, and they, while very, very sympathetic, if you're really removed from it, it's hard to really understand the impact that it had. And I think people were sympathetic and shocked by it, but I don't think they really kind of grasped the full magnitude. And we just happen to live in an area where people were directly impacted by it, and unfortunately, those memories and seeing the families and constantly brought you back to it. But you move on. The thing that sort of kind of sticks with me the most constantly is that a lot of people, a lot of young people, in their 30s and some in their 20s, and a lot of people that were my age that I am now, had to make some pretty hard decisions. And one of the decisions they had to make was, how do I want to die? And do I want to die jumping out of the building, or do I just want to wait and see what happens? Because it was pretty evident that if you were sitting above the point that the planes entered the building, you weren't going to get out. And nobody should ever have to think about or make that kind of decision.